why I think the red pill financially destroys men. I never thought I was gonna do a video like this, but I think it's important, especially if you're in the ages of your 20s, 30s, or your 40s. And I hope that by the end of this video, you're gonna avoid the FFs that I did, and you save yourself a bunch of time and maybe end up with a multi-million-dollar portfolio or some retirement accounts if you don't already have one. So to start off this story, we have to go back to when I just turned 20. Now back then, I just moved out of my house to start an internship at BlackBerry over in Ontario, Canada. And I went to Ontario, Canada knowing nobody. I had no friends or anything, so I had to network quickly. And I met this one guy, great guy, and he introduced me to a lot of his friends. And his friends were wild. They were a bunch of what you call chads. And there I was a virgin back then. And they were all getting laid left, right, and center. And there I was, just at the start. And we didn't have a term for it back then, but that was my introduction to hookup culture. So from that one internship and that group of friends, I learned a lot. I learned how to drink, I learned how to club, I learned how to party, I learned how to behave in a hedonistic way. And most importantly, I learned how to spend money on instant gratification. And it wasn't until 7 to 8 years later, when I had my heart broken, that I learned what I was doing wrong. And I'll talk more about that later. So those skills that I learned from the internship and those group of guys went over well over in Helsinki. So what I did was I took my money that I earned from the internship and I went and blew it on study abroad. So that's great financial advice, right? It's still something that I never regret doing because that was a great experience, but it was a lot more partying, a lot more clubbing, a lot more drinking and trying to get laid, but I always failed. Why? Well, it took me 10 years later to find out after I was saved by Jesus. You see, what was happening was that I always wanted the good girl, but I always attracted the bad girls that I didn't want. And the reason for that is, as my pastor says, you can't really attract the holy, good person if you're ratchet inside. And I was ratchet inside. So that brings us up to my mid-20s, where all from my early 20s till the mid-20s, I had done nothing but waste a bunch of time and money. So I continued on with that lifestyle late into my 20s when I moved to the USA for work. I was doing what Red Pill preached, which is to spin plates, or what they call date multiple women. But what I really achieved was I got the bad girl, but the good girl that I really wanted, that my heart belonged to, she got away. And then she broke me. And I later found out that she wasn't all that good of a girl that I originally thought. It was all a figment of my imagination. And that really led me to a dark path. It led me to the Red Pill community. And it started with exploring the contents of Corey Wayne and then entrepreneurship in cars. Great channels, they taught me a lot. They taught me what hypergamy is, which is that a woman would like to monkey branch if she can get a higher value man. But what I didn't agree with in the Red Pill community is that guys should spin plates and date multiple women. There was also that idea that women should not sleep around, they should not get tattoos if they want to get married, and that just didn't fly with me at all. And I'll get into the reasons why later on this video, so don't miss that. So I think the low point of the Red Pill that made me realize that it was toxic is that they're always preaching that guys should have multiple side chicks and that they should always be making money, and that is great. And one prime example for them is Andrew Tate. Now, I only had snippets of Andrew Tate, so my view of him is very biased, but he seems like a very educated man. But what I don't get, and why I never really vibed with him, is I don't understand how he's around so many women, and I'm not sure where he's finding the time to actually work on meaningful businesses, where he's actually building his empire. Because how I see it, when you're spending that much time entertaining multiple women, that time is taken out of your life, out of your flow, in order to entertain these women, when what you really need is pure focus on what you're trying to achieve in life. I mean, if you really think about it, all of the men who are in the history books, like Jesus, Mahatma Gandhi, Martin Luther King, Nelson Mandela, they didn't have a bunch of women around them distracting them. What you have in their memoirs is just them and their story. And they were just solely focused on what they were trying to do in life, what they were trying to change. So what I see is that the guys who are just portraying Lambos and a bunch of girls, they're probably operating businesses that are not too legit or are predatory. I saw a few clips of Tate, so I have a very biased opinion, but from what I see, it sounds like he also preached the same thing, that women should stay home, women should learn to cook and clean, that they should not sleep with a bunch of men, they should not get tattoos or anything like that. And that is just where I don't agree with his views. I mean, it's 2024. Women can sleep with whoever they want, whenever they want. They can get tattoos, they can buy homes. I'm all for it. However, where I think women is going wrong is that they're not realizing that for men, history matters. And if they want to get married at the end of the day, then they should know that the road that they're on with sleeping a bunch of guys isn't going to help their cause. For myself, I see it as kind of like analyzing a stock. If you see a stock with a bad history, then you're not going to invest in it. But if you see a stock where the history is good, where they're increasing earnings per share every single year, then you're going to invest in it thinking it's a good investment. And there's no right or wrong. I am still in the weeds of this myself. What I have figured out is that my ideal woman would be one that is conservative, one that is godly, and one that would make a good mother. That's how far that I've gotten. And it's not far at all, I think. And when I find a girl that doesn't fit the bill, or maybe she has had a history, then it would be just for fun. It's not serious at all. That's where I'm at. But I think that nowadays, even when I meet a girl who has had a history, or even a girl that is actually really cool, most of the time I find myself too busy in my side hustles to even give them the time of day. And that is something that I really find that I have to work a lot on myself. And you know, there was that point where I was completely with the red pill community, thinking that women should do this and women should do that. And after reflecting on it, I really thought to myself, if I'm putting this much time into this and caring that much about what other people should do, that really shows how insecure I am. And I was insecure. And just by going with logic and reasoning, because I'm a very logical guy, I reasoned that instead of worrying about other people's lives and the decisions that I make, I need to start worrying about my own life and decisions that I make, because we're in a time of inflation, and the most important thing I gotta worry about is the money, because that is what is gonna feed me and that is what is gonna keep me living. And it amazes me that right now there are still a lot of guys out there struggling with this, struggling with wondering who their girl's been with, what they did in their past, what they're doing right now, because it affects their self-confidence. I mean, I definitely thought about that a lot in the past as well. But right now, there's bigger fish to fry. The USA is on a road to stagflation and hyperinflation. So what is number one priority after God is your money. And I think it's the same thing with dating multiple women. If we can connect it with the analogy of entrepreneurship, an entrepreneur usually never focuses on multiple businesses at once, unless you're Elon. But Elon is only one of a kind. Most of the entrepreneurs really just focuses on one idea at a time. They focus on doubling down on growing that one investment that they think are the best investment. The one that is 20% of the work gives 80% of the results. Well, if you turn it up to 100% of the work, where is that going to take you? And it's the same with relationships, I think. Because how can you really grow a relationship, whether you're a guy or a girl, if you're dating multiple people at the same time? You have this one good investment, but you're not willing to double down on that investment. And right now, the investment being a relationship that you have in your hands. You're just so close, but you're not willing to double down on it. And ultimately, I think dating multiple people at the same time ultimately makes you poor, because I don't know if you've been outside and been to a restaurant, but things have gotten expensive, especially with inflation. If you were not dating multiple people, you could have that money that you would have spent dating multiple people, taking them over on dinners, going on dates, and putting that in your retirement account, growing your little nest egg. And for those who are still on the same path, they're dating multiple people, chances are they're not gonna find that one person ever. They're not gonna have kids, which I think are great, because if you have kids with the right partner, then the chances are they're gonna be your retirement plan. But if you had kids with the wrong person, then what you're gonna end up with is a person having to pay alimony checks. So that's why I think the red pill destroys men financially. What it focuses you on things that don't matter. Spinning plates and what a woman should do, rather than focusing on things that do matter, which is building your empire, creating your legacy, and survival. Now, if you're a millennial and you're curious about how bad other millennials are with their money, then you might want to check out this video.